Instagram. Oh, lost connection there with the Wii remote. Hopefully it won't overload my system. I decided not to stream to Twitch. Did some research and decided, well, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. Just try to focus on Kick because it has, I don't know, better algorithm for discoverability, even though Twitch has a much larger audience. So maybe down the line, I'll try to go that route. But for right now, I'm streaming to Kick, X, and YouTube, and Instagram in a vertical format. So those of you on Instagram, doom scrolling, that's kind of want to go for there, the doom scrolling audience. My second monitor is a little wonky right now, so I'm not going to be able to monitor chat from Kick or X as I play. All right, let's see here. Okay, I do want to fix one thing before I start. So sorry, those of you on Instagram, I don't have a nice overlay for this Be Right Back, but I need to be right back. 1 second. Okay, just realized I was talking on mute. Sorry about that. Not sure how live works on Instagram, but I'm not going to waste time trying to figure it out from this end, so we'll just stick with what we got. So okay, let's see. Bring up OBS for just 1 second, making sure things are good there. And YouTube. Looks like we are coming through. Okay. All right, good. Live streams. Okay, good. I think we're good to go. Okay. Let's do this here. Alright. Back at it now. Yeah, the controls for Prime Hack seem to be a little weird whenever I start playing at first. I don't know, maybe I might need to reconnect the controller, but like I'm not touching anything right now and it's moving forward. Not sure why. But anyway. Turn up my volume a little bit. Okay. Alright, so yeah. This is my first time streaming to Instagram. Hopefully it's working. I know the vertical format is kind of weird. I never thought of watching a live stream of a video game in vertical format because of the screen issue, but you know, the most important thing when streaming or recording is audio, so hopefully if you sitting and watching this and want to hear some good stuff, that's what I'm trying to do here. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Jay Bongo. You can call me Jay or Bongo, or Jason, I guess, if you want to call me that. My tag is J Bongo Gamer, which in hindsight I'm like, that's kind of a, should have just been J Bongo Gaming. That would have been much better. But I needed another tag that wasn't my confusing last name. And I did it really quick. It sounds kind of silly to me right now, so but it is what it is. I don't want to change it right now because then that will confuse everyone. Alright. I think we got everything we need here. That is a red door. And I am going to try and go in said red door. My controller, I can't deal with this right now. Come on, reconnect. Be happy. Wow. Okay, whatever. I don't want to waste time with this. Yeah, so if this is your first time tuning in, what I try to do with my streams, I haven't been streaming very long, but one of my goals is to throw my 2 cents into the online gaming discourse. I think games are important, and they are an important part of our society. And when I say that, I don't mean like important, like I don't know, life or death issues or things like that. What I mean is they're so prevalent in our society that we have to pay attention to them. There's too many games and a lot of players that games have now become such a prevalent part of our society and culture that we need to start really discussing games in a critical way. Critical thinking, analyzing, figuring out, in the same way that we do books and movies. Not just with the story of games, but also with, how games are developed, things like that. I do think that the games you play can influence you in different ways. Okay, I'm not going down the route that, video games cause people to be violent. But there are, there's plenty of stuff out there. I feel it's pretty intuitive that, the kind of media you interact with tends to reflect your own you know, some of your own personal beliefs, and also the stories. Stories have a much... Stories can influence people in ways that are much more potent and effective than simple facts. And games have a interactive component to them, which makes them way more potent to people, especially kids. How they interact with games. I know that, you know, again, I love video games. Not saying they're bad, but I noticed that when my kids go on long binges of video games, because of the interactive component, it tends to make them hyper for a little bit after they're done playing. If that makes any sense to people. Maybe other parents could chime in there, but you know, they're going to be interacting with video games, so I want to be able to interact in a critical way with them. I want to teach them how to interact with them properly. Can I jump on that thing? Oh, I wish my controller would. Fix itself. Yeah, along the same lines of what I was saying, I don't just want to be a reaction streamer. I'm not good at it. Don't think I have the personality for it. My clips will mostly be me. Will be based on what I'm saying versus what happens on screen. Sometimes it'll be what happens on screen, but most of the times it'll just be topics of discussion. Some mostly related to gaming, sometimes related to other random stuff that I happen to be the chat brings up or comments bring up. Like, for example, reading through the comments of my stream the other day, I had a very brief discussion that was sort of off topic about time travel. And in a weird... It wasn't about video games, just about time travel in general. And how I felt time travel would affect you as a person. And your outlook on life if you had the ability to time travel. You know, I don't get a ton of views, but, you know, on Instagram, it was probably one of my top viewed clips. And people felt very strongly that that I didn't understand time travel or the mechanics of it and how it worked, and that's great. My point on how time travel work, like how time travel would affect you, doesn't really have to do with how time travel works, but just that if you got it working somehow, it would affect you as a person and your outlook on life. That's pretty much it. But people felt really strongly they needed to inform me that time travel was a lot more science behind it than simply going back in time. Or theoretical science, I guess. Alright, I don't need to be here. Sorry. Yeah, with regards to my own contribution to online gaming discourse, you know, I do feel like I have something to contribute to the conversation to help improve gaming discourse. I guess that, you know, is a little bit self-serving and maybe even a little bit narcissistic. I wouldn't consider myself a narcissist. I guess, I don't know if you asked my wife. I don't think so. But you have to have some sort of pride in what you think and want to share it with others. Otherwise, you know, you're not really going to share anything. Also learning that as a new streamer, it is very difficult to talk and navigate a game like Metroid. I need to go forward. Okay. Hopefully I'll finish this game before Christmas. You know, my streaming schedule is very, very limited. About an hour a day in the morning. But hoping to finish this before Prime, before I actually get Prime 4, which hopefully will be around Christmas time, you know. And if I don't get it before Christmas time, or around Christmas time, I want to continue. I want to play Prime 3. I think I really do want to. I think I might play that even if I get Prime 4. I don't know. That'll be hard to do. I want to have an informed opinion. Okay, I've only played Prime 3 once. Just it came out at a weird time in my life when I graduated college and didn't have a job and couldn't afford a Wii U, and then my brother bought a Wii U. he was able to find one and track it down. And yeah, I just played it once, and then I shipped off overseas to work as an English school as an English teacher. So I don't know. It was a very, very awkward time for me. Played a lot. I played Metroid Prime 3 a lot. I'm sorry, Metroid Prime 1 a lot. So that's my primary base for where I'm coming from with how I'm going to compare Metroid Prime 4 to anything. How do I get in there? Getting a little crackly audio. That's not good. Oh wait, I have the gravity boost now. I feel like there should be a way. There we go. Maybe I can get up there because I have the gravity boost now. Nope. Here. Can't get that. Oh, I can, yeah. I feel like most of the... I'm trying to think. There's some good gaming news happening these days. The Metroid Prime 4 seems to be what people are all posting about. And seems to have some mixed reviews. Got the lowest score out of the trilogy, I think, on Metacritic, which is kind of surprising. But it's hard to. People have been saying for years that gaming journalism is not really, you should really trust it or not. So, no, it's kind of weird. Gaming journalism, when it comes to who to believe on the reviews and things like that, I feel like as long as, at least in modern internet, from my experience on social media, players have been saying for such a long time, you know, you can't trust gaming journalists ever since the whole Gamergate fiasco happened. But yet, we still pay attention to it. It still happens. Like, we still care about the Metacritic scores. Uh-oh. Might have a bit of a problem here. Yeah. This is the hazards of playing on a emulator with a fork of an emulator specifically designed for Metroid. So, okay, let me quickly reboot here. Shouldn't be a big problem. Might even fix my controller issue. Okay, Sandra6567, thanks for following. I appreciate it. While I get my blank stream back up. All right, let me do this here. It shouldn't freeze in the exact same place again. But who knows? Alright, I think we're back up here. And my controller's fixed now. Awesome. Okay, I shouldn't be wandering around so much. Anyway, my point was that gaming journalism and how people view it is really interesting, because I feel like the majority of gamers, if you're online, if you are a social media gamer, and by that I mean you play games and you chat online, you tend to have this view that gaming journalism is kind of trash. And I mean, just like with any type of journalism, I feel like you're gonna find trash in the sense that opinions are either bought or bad or good, or you're gonna find a whole mix of things. But even my point is that everyone says it's trash, and then yet we still pay attention to it. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that just shows me that there is a desire to actually have quality discourse around games, and honest reviews, and good discussion that can actually better the gaming community as a whole. People my age, we grew up with gaming. You know, we know what it was like in the early days of chat lobbies. Those of you who are as old as I am, and you played online games in the early wild west days of the internet, know it was pretty crazy. And so I do think that it is part of our media DNA to be interested in talk around video games. Look at that. I almost missed this. No one pointed it out to me. No yellow paint. Just gonna say that, even though I needed yellow paint at last playthrough. Just the little half pipe there that I'm supposed to notice on my own that blended in with the environment. Fit right in with it. I love it. I just had a moment where I had to make sure my mic was unmuted. And now I'm freaking out again. Okay, good. Part of my goal too, and I think the goal of gaming overall is that, or gamers overall when they talk about games is, you know, there is still, even though that, you know, video games are a huge market, bigger than Hollywood, there's still a pretty wide perception about games that they're not really, they're either a waste of time completely, or they're not really worth talking about on the same level as other artistic mediums, and I do say that gaming is an artistic medium. I would say it's even more complex than... Well, no, that's not true. It's not more complex than movies, but it is a pretty complex medium. I mean, you have to... In order to have a truly iconic game, you have to have, like, great music, great art direction, gameplay. Your game has to work. Programming. I'm a programmer in my day job, and man, even the simplest things can really throw off a whole program. And I forgot what I was saying about it, so there's that too. Dead end there. We'll go that way first. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention on what I was doing. I had a point to what I was saying before, but I can't seem to remember it, so sorry everyone. Probably had to do with the importance of video games. Well, I don't know why I couldn't do that. Oops. Why can't I get over there? Jeez. Oh, there we go. That was weird. So yeah, just to continue on what I was saying earlier, that the hunger for discussion on games on a deeper level, I do believe is actually a real thing. That's my overall point, regardless of how we feel about it. And I think the criticism that gaming journalism has gotten since the Gamergate days is definitely warranted. But that doesn't mean we should, throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you aspire to be a gaming journalist, go and do that. But just know that as you do it, you might encounter like the whole issue of being part of a big publication, having to say or form opinions that agree more with your publisher rather than what you actually think. There's always that kind of stuff when when you're working as part, not as a solo commentator. But honestly, it's like someone who's just getting started with streaming and has a very, very limited audience. It's a good problem to have. The whole thing with audience capture for streamers, they are working for themselves, but they've built an audience, and then over time, they feel like they have to make sure that their opinions match what the audience they built. Which, many single people out there might be like, oh, they're just a sellout at that point. They're just a grifter. But, when you get older and have a family, like I do, and if I ever start to make money from this, and if I ever actually start having to depend on the money I make from this sort of thing, that's a different story. That is a, different... It's a different way to look at it. So I have a little bit more sympathy for people who curtail their opinions to match their audience. I still don't think it's right. I think that they should be authentic and say what they really think, but at the same time, I get it. Trust me. It's as soon as you have other people dependent upon you for finances and things like that, the game changes greatly. It's not just about what you want to say anymore. Morning, Eamon. Seemed like a lot for Michelin expansion. Hey, they gotta fit him in somewhere, I guess. I really want to know how these games are, I know corporately how the application I work on as a developer, how it all fits together in the sense of okay, we're gonna do this, and first, but I want to know is the people who work on the puzzles, do they have a separate group of people? Are they you're the puzzle guys, it's your job, here's the map, it's your job to figure out the puzzles you're going to put in these rooms so that they can get missile expansions. And these are the puzzle team. I don't know. That's... The Ing always gave me kind of Zerg vibes. Oh. Also, hey Tim. Yeah, the puzzle team is... Yeah, the level design team. That's the word I'm looking for. The level design team. But there's gotta be... There's gotta be some sort of different... Well, I know. There's probably a ton of overlap. You know, obviously. If studios work on multiple games, they gotta have their level design team that works on the level design for all their games, which I imagine could be quite difficult if you're mixing genres with the games that you make. You know, the level design team might be good for Metroid games, but if you had to work on like a Zelda type game or a platformer, you know, that could be a different story. You'd really have to have a sort of jack of all trades type game designer if you're gonna have multiple genres in your studio. Oof, frame rates dropped a lot there. Yeah, which waterfall should we hide this behind? Yes, I've tarried too long and the missile and the hint system has kicked in. I'll use this moment to grab a sip of coffee. See, I was on the right track. I was getting there. They could have programmed something in where like the closer I am to it, the longer it waits, or I don't know. But yeah, back to the gaming journalist thing, or just being an influencer in general. Like, give the people what they want, that kind of that kind of mentality. You know, even as someone just starting out on this journey that may lead to nowhere, a lot of the thoughts on marketing and how to write good hooks and things like that. People want controversy, people want strong opinions, people want drama. And I imagine there's a lot of streamers out there who started out being like, I'm not going to be like that, and just ended up like that. So I can't really, you know, not going to fault them for that. I guess it's unavoidable at some point. Like even some of the, oh look, an energy tank. I haven't seen one of those in a while. People want to comment on things. Which is why even, you know, I don't have very many subscribers on Instagram, but I've been getting a lot of comments on my work, and some people, man, they come on the internet and they're just looking for a fight, and I don't know if it's, I imagine there are some like aggro bots out there that are designed to stoke controversy and antagonize people, but I do think there are some people who go on there and they view every opinion that is not the same as theirs as like an attack. And you can tell even by reading, like the tone that they have in the words. You can just kind of tell it. And that's when you have to kind of use that wisdom I tried to impart yesterday. Do I... Oops. I didn't... Sorry. Didn't mean to do that twice. Yeah, controversy gets clicks and attention. And adding to your waterfall thing, there's also the aspect of, like, games... in this game series... chests have always been behind waterfalls, and it shouldn't change. Like, there's that aspect as well. And I know I'm guilty of that, and not to say that there isn't any merit to any of those arguments. But there are instances where, you know, it gets a little too much, and, you know, you really kind of have to weigh, is this worth arguing about? Like, at the beginning of the stream, I was discussing how the my comments on time travel actually got a lot of traction. You know, when I was talking about how time travel would cause you to be a sociopath. That clip I posted on Instagram actually got a lot of, not a lot, but for me it was a lot of comments of people saying I didn't understand how time travel worked, and some of them sounded a little upset. Not sure why, but I was like, I think I responded once about what my point was, and then after that I was just like, it's not worth it. This is not what I want to talk about. But it's funny, when you strike that nerve, you know, there is part of you that's like, okay, should I talk about this again? Ow. People like, it's weird because people like to get offended, even though offense is not a, when I say like, I mean, I don't know, there seems to be, taking offense to something is almost like a motivator. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But even in my small social media circle, learning how to not take offense to things, I think is, I don't like these enemies. I really don't. Yeah, learning how to not to take offense to things. It doesn't just apply to online. It applies to life in general. When someone has a different opinion than you, learning how to not take offense is very important. And not being offended or not clapping back, as the kids say, that actually landed me my first live stream with Nerdporial. I made a comment about Breath of the Wild, and he disagreed with me. And rather than tell him he's an idiot, I don't think he's an idiot. He's a really nice guy. I was like, yeah, I understand your opinion. I disagree with it. And here's why. He was like, wow, this person actually wanted to talk about stuff instead of yell on X. And then he was like, you should come on my live stream. And I did, and it was fun. And I've been on there twice now, so, you know, who says nice guys finish last? I'm gonna catch up on my chat here because I don't have it on the screen. I could honestly, like, I could do with a little bit more rage bait just to drive up my numbers, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing too. I've ended a few online threads with basically like, hey, thanks for, you know, even though you were kind of mean to me and called me an idiot, thanks for taking the time to engage with my stuff. Not as like a slight to them, but I do appreciate it. You took the time to hate on me, and you gave me some engagement. Thank you. You know, there's at least that there. And yeah, Tim, I think everyone wants to contribute to the conversation, which is overall a good thing, because that's partly my motivation. I do think I have something to contribute to the conversation. Other people might disagree, and you know, let's talk about that. Let's discuss what's worth discussing and what isn't. It does sound a little narcissistic, though, if I'm if I'm gonna be honest. You do. I feel like you do have to have a little bit of that like, okay, I'm going to contribute to this because my opinion matters, and it does. It does. Your opinions matter, you know, and you should share your opinions because your opinion might actually help people. They might not. You could use your opinion for the dark side and divide people. But no, use your words for good. You know, throw in some rage bait here and there just to drive those numbers up and draw people to you. Seemed like a waste of a portal. The level design team should have thrown a bit more of a puzzle there, maybe. I haven't been hit with it yet, but I know it's going to happen someday where it's like, you've never designed a game, but yet you're just critiquing video games. It's like, yeah, don't know what to tell you. Doesn't make me wrong, but I see their point. I fully understand how difficult it is to make a video game. Well, maybe I don't fully understand. I fully sympathize with those who say it's difficult to make a video game. I only make web applications, and that's already hard enough, so I at least have some understanding of how programming can work, and it amazes me how some of these games don't immediately crash all the time, given how complex gaming has gotten. It does. It all comes back to Star Wars eventually. The great unifier of our culture is Star Wars, for better or ill. This thing again. Okay, I discovered just now what I don't like about this enemy. You have to wait for it to materialize before you can shoot it. And I get that that is an aspect of it. Please die. But when you design your enemies, if anybody's ever read or watched my video on The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, one of the biggest flaws in that game is the enemy design. Not the art design. Art design's great, but the enemy design, how the enemies behave, and well, not so much how they behave, but how the fight is programmed to go, and a lot of it has to do with you have to wait for it to be vulnerable, and there's nothing you can do to change that. There's no weapon that makes it easier. Like, why do my missiles go through that? I don't understand. That's the most annoying thing about the enemies here, and this guy is reminding me of it, because I have to wait for him to become solid before I can shoot it properly. And he seems to take a lot of... It wouldn't be much of a problem if they just tweaked a few things, like, I don't know, make him have less health. He's quite bullet spongy. I don't know. It's a nitpick. I know it's a nitpick, but you know. Hey, I just noticed that Tim and Eamon, you guys have little crowns. Good job. I don't know what that means, but good work. Yeah, that's a good point, Eamon. The internalization of opinions and combining it with their identity. That's a good point. I don't know if there's anything you can really do to, other than pointing it out to people so that they can recognize. I think that happens naturally in people, and the only thing you can really do is to point out that exact point out and be like, hey, listen, you're going to feel strongly about a lot of things because you're going to internalize your opinions and make them part of your identity. Don't do that. Or at least, if you're going to do that, understand that that's what's happening. So you don't get so upset if someone has a different opinion than you. Okay, let's see. Where is that? Oh, I did get a hint, so maybe it's yelling at me for a hint. Time to take an actual moment and actually, play the game. There's a translation over there. Gotta zoom out here. That's 2. Okay. There we go. Zzz. Maybe it's over here. Okay. Oh, it's in the Dark World, that's right. My hint was somewhere in the Dark World. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Interesting. How do I get there? Okay. Ugh, I gotta get back over there. All right. Where's that portal? Whoa. Okay. Let's see. There's an ammo station. Portal that doesn't help me. Alright, we gotta go back that way. Also, when it comes to online debate, I think there are times when I'm like, okay, this isn't worth it to talk with this person, but because in the back of your mind, that especially in a public forum, you're never going to get a person to admit that they were wrong. So it can often feel like a complete waste of time. But again, if you feel that you're right and you want to, having the mentality of this is not to convince the person that they're wrong. This is to convince anyone who's listening, the audience, that the other person is wrong. You know, like it's never gonna happen. I've rarely seen it where someone said, "Hey, I was wrong. You're right," in a in a public forum like that, because there's a lot at stake. Even though I do think that people usually respond pretty well to that sort of thing. Like they're like, "Oh, he's actually a nice person." But if you know that other people are going to see and watch, that's part of it as well. The audience factor is pretty huge, and when you engage even with someone who's like really antagonistic towards you, having the mentality, it's like, okay, this person's being pretty mean, but I'm going to engage with them anyway because there might be people who are watching the drama who could be influenced by my opinion. I have not watched Hero Academia. I don't watch a ton of anime. I've watched recent anime. I've watched Demon Slayer and the new Bleach stuff. And I don't know, is Dragon Ball Super still considered recent? I don't think so. But yeah, I don't watch a ton of anime, but I do enjoy it from time to time. Anime is another area of society that I think wider society needs to start wising up about, and understanding that, hey, this is here to stay. It's insanely popular, and there's actually some good discussion that can be had around even some of the like silliest anime, like even Dragon Ball Super. I think there's discussions worth having about character arcs and how things they say and things like that. Like Goku, he's not just like an aspirational hero. He's one of those character archetypes that you don't just aspire to be, but in the story itself, his like presence doesn't just elevate. His presence elevates everyone around him. He's that kind of hero. A lot of the cast actually in that show started out as an enemy of Goku, and now is a friend. Which it's simple, but simple doesn't mean bad. But it's just an interesting thing. His altruism affects people, and I do think that can actually happen in real life. I think if you're trying to be a good person, that can have a positive effect on the people around you. It's kind of like in KOTOR 2, where your alignment actually affected your characters. Like, you could get normal characters with the dark side disposition to actually change their disposition from light to dark, and depending on how that happened, it opened up different dialogues and things like that. Okay, so I'm sort of in the right place. Alright, I'm gonna risk it and play for a little bit more. Yeah, power scaling is probably one of the biggest weaknesses of a lot of anime. Which is why... and it's bird o'clock. Yeah, the power scaling issue is a big problem. Which is why I think it's best when an anime that is adapted from a complete story already tends to not run into that problem better. Like, I thought Demon Slayer actually had a good kind of power scaling mechanic going. Like, right off the bat, he's weak. They throw, you know, I thought it was going to be pretty much like Bleach with the Hashira and the other, their corresponding other demons, but then but then right off the bat one of them dies. Sorry, spoilers. and you realize, okay, this, you know, people are actually going to die in this story, and the hero is not going to somehow find a way to beat them right off the bat. You realize how helpless Tanjiro is right off the bat, and he grows, and there does seem to be an upper limit to the power that the Hashira have, and they need to figure out a way to beat these demons rather than just simply power up. You know, they have to result in teamwork and trickery and things like that to actually win. That I feel like made Demon Slayer a bit more interesting. It all comes back to Star Wars again. Yes, it does. KOTOR 2 is a oh man, dang it. This is not where I needed to go. Ugh. Oh, powers throughout different power levels throughout different what do you call them? Intellectual properties, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go down there and then I'm gonna call it a day. Man, I did not make a lot of progress. I got an energy tank and a missile pack, so that was cool. Yeah, power scaling in Bleach, not in Bleach, kind of gets a little ridiculous. I still don't know who's, like, even in the newer episodes, I'm a little unclear as to who's the strongest and how that all works. And then in Dragon Ball, it's just completely off the charts now. Coraline. Coraline is a power level. I guess you could fight, you know, just play Fortnite and you can fight whatever character you want against any other character. Please tell me I went the right way. Okay, I think I did. Dark World. Where is it? There's that. Okay, so I need to zoom out. Alright. There is a portal down here that I need to access in the light world. Oops. That one. No. Yes. Ugh. Okay, I don't have the time to do this right now. Sorry, everyone. Same species as Mary Poppins. A lesser god of lesser trickster goddess. Yeah, my wife showed Mary Poppins to our kids recently, and for some reason I never picked up on it. Like, as a kid, you know, she starts out, like, the movie starts out with her just sitting in the clouds, so she's clearly some sort of spiritual deity or entity or something like that. And the author, I forget her name, the author of Mary Poppins, I think she studied a lot of mythology and kind of worked that into Mary Poppins' character. Yeah, the discussion on who Mary Poppins is, or what Mary Poppins is kind of fun. Alright guys, I'd love to keep playing and chatting. It's always a lot of fun, but I think gotta call it a day here. Hopefully tomorrow. There's always something that interrupts sleep at night when you have kids. Last night was no different. So one of these days I'll have to sleep in, but yes, definitely send me a link to that. But all right, let's see. Aim and Tim, thanks for hanging out. It was a lot of fun, and probably do this tomorrow. That would make them sleep better for sure. And it all comes back to Star Wars. I'll have to make a video about that. Okay, thanks guys. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later.